Cool. And so, what interests you about the biological sciences, and at what age were you like, oh, this is what I want to do with my life? I want to go into the sciences.
It's a really good question. So let me put it this way. My high school teachers were shocked when I went into biology at the university level, right? Because up to then, I've been primarily known as a computer person. I've done a lot of computer programming contests at the national level. But I think that ultimately I saw computing or computer science more as a tool and as a hobby. And I find that it does not satisfy my curiosity, because ultimately computers are designed by people. And right, we're finding new uses for it. That's great, but most of that is really engineering. There's not much to discover per se in computer science. And what really fascinated me, I think there's one book that really got me thinking about biology, which is The Selfish Gene by Richard Dawkins. It's kind of an old book at this point, but what the insight that it gave me was that biology is, even though biology looks extremely diverse, and I always say that biology is a science of exceptions, right? Every rule in biology you'll find an exception to it.
Yeah.
But there are underlying guiding principles through which life evolved, and discovering how that process works and how that process in interacting with environmental events shaped the world that we see today. I think that's fascinating. Biology is so much more complex than we have ever imagined. And certainly in microbiology, we went from thinking that we understand everything about microorganisms to realizing in the past 10, 15 years that we know nothing about microorganisms, right? We go from thinking that microorganisms are only bad and the only bacteria we have in the human gut is E. coli, to understanding that microorganisms and really microbial communities drive every single nutrient recycling process on this planet, right? Trees would not grow without microorganisms. Humans won't function without microorganisms. And understanding that microorganisms play just very, very critical and intimate, critical roles and have intimate relationship with their hosts. And I think, it's working in microbiology certainly has been very rewarding, and I think it satisfies this my curiosity.
All right. So last question would be, what advice do you have to current high school students wanting to follow the same path as you? So the different skills and subjects needed to go in such a pathway.
Yeah. So I think the first thing is that you need two things. Ultimately, I wouldn't say that people should follow the same path as me. Everybody takes their own path. But regardless of the path you take, there are two things you need. The first one is you need curiosity, and the second one is that you need persistence. Right? So curiosity on its own doesn't lead to anything.
Yeah.
You could be sitting. You could be, staring at the clouds and wondering all day and be curious all day and do nothing about it. In the end, you would have learned nothing, right? Yeah. You need persistence to go with it. But just persistence is also not enough, because if you're just persistent, then it can be boring, right? You need curiosity to drive you, but you need the persistence to get somewhere. And those are the two things that I think really need to be cultivated in students. And I think in terms of the specific subjects that you take and so on, I would say that it's absolutely critical that people have a basic understanding of physics. This may be odd coming from a biologist, but the truth is, biology is simply a collection of chemical reactions. And chemical reactions are a particular way of describing how physics takes place.
Yeah.
Right? And down to the atomic level, everything is physics. And I think that by gaining a basic appreciation of what physics, can do, and how physicists think, I think people will have much easier time understanding what's going on around them. And I think so. I know that physics is not a very popular subject right now in high schools, mostly because of a lack of good teachers, and therefore there's not a strong encouragement for students to take it. I would say that it's probably the one foundational discipline for anybody who wants to work, in a research capacity. And then you take the foundation that you have from physics, you then add chemistry, and then you add biology. Remember, biology is nothing without chemistry. Biology is just a collection of chemical reactions that happen in a particular way.
Yeah.
So you won't understand biology truly unless you understand chemistry, right?
Yeah.
And so I would say that even though the current system allows students to theoretically, you can get a PhD in New Zealand in biology without ever having taken physics and having taken very little chemistry. I would argue that you would struggle once you actually get into a real, get into a real career if you don't have that foundational knowledge of physics and chemistry. And then we talk about math. Again, a lot of people take biology because they don't like math.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Mathematics describes everything, and it's. I'm not talking about being able to solve complex differential equations and things like that, but I think basic understanding of trigonometry, basic understanding of algebra, all those are extremely helpful. Statistics is more important than most people assume it to be, because especially in biology, right? In biology, we're getting to a place where we understand that there's enormous diversity in the biology of everything. And oftentimes, you're not going to be able to appreciate or analyze that these complex communities or phenomena unless you can approach a statistical method to it. So I know I just listed basically everything that you can possibly take, but I think that it is incredibly important that students do take those instead of choosing the soft topics which may give them a better grade.
Yeah.
And I think that certainly at the University of Waikato, within the schools, the Faculty of Science and Engineering, we're coming to a realization that our graduates will not succeed without a foundational knowledge of physics or numeracy. Right, so statistics, physics, chemistry, and math.
Yeah.
So, starting from next year, our new degree structure will force students to take a numeracy component, and we hope to get them to understand, have a better foundation and better prepare them for employment. Another thing that we are looking to do is to make sure that students leave the university having enough knowledge to bridge, what they learn from the university into the real world. And I think that could be very effectively done through internship programs, through work placements, and I think that nothing works in isolation, and even something as seemingly pure as science involves a lot of details, right? I just from my work, I probably know more about logistics than most people, including some people in the logistics industry, and but that's what it takes.
Yeah.
Right? Because unless you're a theoretical mathematician, where you can literally do all your work with a pencil and piece of paper, when you get to when you start investigating complex subjects, that requires a lot of coordination and preparation, then all those are real world experiences that you will not learn in any school. So I think, by having a practical internship workplace placement component, I think we are also in a good place to better prepare students or graduates for their career.
Cool. All right. Thank you.